All right, today we're diving into something really special. We're looking at these incredible textiles from Taiwan's indigenous communities, the Tayal, the Truku, and the Sedik peoples. And we're going to unravel how these are so much more than just beautiful fabrics. They're actually a complex code, woven with spiritual beliefs, hard science, and a powerful story of cultural survival. So yeah, let's get right into it.
So let me ask you this. What if a pattern was also a promise? I mean, what if every single thread in a design wasn't just there to look pretty, but was actually part of a sacred agreement? A promise made between the living, the dead, and the world of the spirits. That's really the question that sits at the very heart of this ancient art form.
Okay, so to really get these textiles, the first thing you've got to understand is their deepest layer of meaning, and that's the spiritual one. See, the most iconic patterns, they're not just cool-looking geometric shapes. No way. They are a direct line to the cosmos and to the ancestors who are watching from beyond.
Take this central diamond motif, for example. You see it in countless variations, and it has this incredibly powerful name. It translates literally to the ancestors' eyes. And I want to be super clear here. This isn't some poetic metaphor. For them, it's a statement of fact. It's their worldview.
So to really grasp what that means, we have to talk about this concept called utuks. Now, this isn't just a ghost or, a spirit in the way we might think of it. Utuks is this huge, all-encompassing idea. It's the spirit of your ancestors, sure, but it's also the ancestral land itself, and it's the source of all moral law and all blessings. It's a complete spiritual framework, all wrapped up in one word.
So, here's the really crucial part. When a weaver creates this pattern, they're literally embedding a sacred promise and a moral code right into the cloth. Those diamond eyes are there to remind you that the ancestors see everything, so you have to live a good, upright life. And those colorful stripes you see woven alongside them, well, those represent the rainbow bridge, the actual path you have to walk to be reunited with those very same ancestors in the afterlife.
And this is where you really understand the stakes. I mean, this is huge. Skill in weaving, it wasn't a hobby. It wasn't just a craft. It was a matter of eternal significance. The tradition says that a woman's ability to weave was her ticket, her key to get across that rainbow bridge. So for the Tayal, Truku, and Sedik peoples, a loom wasn't just a tool. It was literally a gateway to the afterlife. Think about that.
Okay, so we've talked about the spiritual. Now let's shift gears a little bit, because this sacred art is also grounded in some seriously deep empirical science. This isn't magic we're talking about, it's chemistry and botany, knowledge passed down through countless generations. So the whole process kicks off with the ramie plant. First, its fibers are stripped. Then, they're meticulously twisted into thread. And then, and this is a key step, they're boiled in ash water. Now that's not some random thing they do. It's absolutely crucial for bleaching and preparing the fibers to really soak up the dye. Only after all that can the color be applied, using materials that are foraged right from the surrounding forests.
And one of the most important sources of dye, the one that creates that iconic, rich, reddish-brown color. It comes from the root of a wild yam called shulang. It's amazing, really. This humble little root holds the secret to the textile's signature look. Okay, and this is where it gets so cool. This is where you see this perfect translation between ancient wisdom and modern science. The elders taught mix ash water with the dye. Today, we know that an alkaline solution acts as a mordant, a chemical that basically locks the dye into the fiber so it doesn't wash out. They knew the shulang yam produces a lasting color. And today we know its root is packed with tannin, a super powerful natural dyeing compound. They didn't have the fancy scientific terms, but they absolutely 100% understood the principles.
So, we've got spirit, we've got science, and now we need to talk about the sheer engineering involved. Because these textiles are just mind-blowing feats of mathematical precision and technical mastery. It completely shatters any idea you might have of so-called primitive art.
I mean, let's just look at the hard numbers for a sec. An analysis of a Sedik shawl at the British Museum turned up some stunning numbers. We're talking a warp density of 26 threads per centimeter. That is incredibly fine and tight. And the pattern itself? It's made of over 6,000 individual little cells. This is not a simple repeating design, folks. It's a massive, complex algorithm that the weaver had to keep track of entirely in her head.
And here's the real kicker, the part that just blows my mind. All of that complexity, all of that insane mathematical precision was achieved on this, a simple backstrap loom. A tool with zero complex machinery, powered entirely by the weaver's own body, skill,
and memory. It's proof that the real sophistication is in the artist, not the equipment. This specific, master-level technique even has a name. It's called the rice grain weave, and you can kind of see why. It's because of these tiny, almost pointilless dots that make up the image. It is considered the absolute pinnacle of Seta skill, a feat of mental calculation and physical dexterity that is just, well, it's breathtaking.
But this deeply integrated system of spirit, science, and skill, it's now facing its greatest challenge yet, the modern world. So the big question becomes, what happens when a sacred practice like this enters the commercial marketplace?
Well, today, these textiles have moved far beyond the village. You'll find them being made in workshops for cultural tourism, they're sold as high-end crafts, they're even featured on international fashion show runways. The entire context has just fundamentally shifted.
And as you can probably guess, that shift has created a really deep tension. There's this heartbreaking quote from a tile elder who is watching these new commercialized forms of weaving and just said, "That is no longer the culture of the tile." I mean, that one sentence just captures such a profound sense of loss and change.
Yeah, at its very core, the craft is going through this massive transformation. It's moving from ritual to retail, from something deeply embedded in the sacred daily life of a community to a product that's designed to be sold.
And you have to understand, what's at stake here is so much more than just the weaving itself. It's this entire concept called Gaga. Now, just like Utux, Gaga is another one of these big, complex Tagyal ideas. It basically means the whole way of life, the sum of all traditional knowledge, social rules, all their wisdom. So when weaving gets commercialized, it risks getting disconnected from the Gaga, and that threatens the integrity of their entire cultural system.
So, where does that leave them? How are these communities trying to navigate this new reality? Well, they're trying to find this incredibly delicate balance, right? A balance between preserving the soul of their tradition and just ensuring its economic survival in the 21st century.
And one of the key concepts that's guiding them is something called plagin, which is the traditional culture of sharing. Think of it as an economic model, but one that's based on mutual support and the well-being of the whole community, not on individual profit. It's the total opposite of the modern market, which is all about competition and accumulation.
And so we come full circle, right back to the ancestors' eyes, that ancient pattern. It once watched over the community to make sure the Gaga, the rules were followed. But today, it bears witness to a whole new kind of struggle. That's watching as a new generation of weavers attempts the most difficult pattern imaginable, weaving a future that somehow honors sacred tradition while still allowing their culture to survive and hopefully to thrive.
Which, of course, leaves us with a final massive question. And it's one that goes way beyond Taiwan. It's a challenge that indigenous communities are facing all over the globe. How does a culture sell its art without selling its soul?